What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley, that's Scott Savage, and you can join us at InsideTheGame.ca, YouTube at Inside the Game Official. Those podcast services, thanks to our friends at Fired Up Network, 212 of those platforms, just like SoundCloud. And of course, those beautiful TV streaming global platforms everywhere. I'm talking about Roku, Amazon Prime, Samsung Plus, Jinx Esports TV, ESTV, Game Plus. Dude, the list just keeps going. You know what? Just look us up. You'll find us. We gotta be there somewhere. Don't forget about socials as well, because we're also on Twitter, or you call it X now, Scott. What do you call this now? Is it X? Is it Twitter?
It's always going to be Twitter to me, just like Max is always going to be Max.
I saw someone put just yesterday T and then Xer. Like, it was just like, what is going on here, man? What a disaster. But yo, what's not a disaster? What's on today's show, Scott? We got a lot to talk about.
Oh, it is a hot episode today. We have potential details on the Nintendo next console. That's a big one.
Yep.
Assassin's Creed Mirage. Always happy to talk about that more. Starfield has the Play Everywhere moniker. And Elder Scrolls 4 is getting a remaster. That's Oblivion, if you've forgotten. It has been a while.
It certainly has been a while. Yo, Mirage. I cannot wait. Just give me hands-on, Mirage. Let's go, Ubisoft. Anytime. You know what it's time for? It's the first show. Let's get going. Scott, August 1st, dude, is coming out swinging. We got a ton to talk about today on the show, and we're starting off in a hot way as well. Nintendo targets 2024 with the next-gen console. I'm prefacing that right there with saying next-gen when I don't really feel it's going to be next-gen, if you get my drift. Let's get into this. This is Andy Robinson of VGC. Development kits for Nintendo's next console are now with key partner studios with launch plans for next year, sources told VGC. According to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans, the company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024. It's called holiday season, to ensure that there is ample stock available on day one to avoid the kind of shortages seen with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. However, I'm going to preface this right there, Scott, and stop it and go, there's a shortage on Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5s because there are shortages on the actual hardware, not the console itself, but other gears and tech within it. There was shortage worldwide. Like, I mean, automotive productions were on shortages and things, right? Like, it just wasn't the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S.
You couldn't get a smart fridge if you wanted to for a couple of months at least.
Exactly. But getting back into Andy's article, he says, although specific details on the console are kept closely guarded, those VGC spoke to indicated that the next-gen console would be able to be used in portable mode, similar to the Nintendo Switch. Scott, did you think they're going to stick with that model?
Yeah, I think that's their niche in the market now. I don't think they would sacrifice that, but I do have ideas how that could work out.
Here's what they did sacrifice, though, Scott. Two sources VGC spoke to suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED. That sucks, man. In order to bring down costs. I get the back end of that conversation, Scott, but dude, the LED, the OLED is the way to go, not LCD. That hurts, man.
I'm wondering if that's a split SKU. We're going to see that come down later on down the road, or maybe just at launch with a beefier package.
Oh, kind of like the PlayStation, right? You can get the disc version or the discless version. That's a good idea, too. But it's in order to bring down costs, especially considering the increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. The current Switch comes with the 32 gigs of internal memory, while many current gen PlayStation and Xbox games are over 100. Scott,
so, 32 gigabytes. Isn't that a cute kind of reminder of the past?
Absolutely. Like its predecessor, the new Nintendo console will also accept physical games via cartridge slot, the sources said. Other details such as backwards compatibility support for Switch games, physical and digital, remains unclear. Nintendo has said it wants to convert as many of Switch's 100+ million user base as possible to its next system. Scott, here we go. Dude, is this about time we get this or what?
I think it's high time we see something out of Nintendo.
Oh, man.
But this question of backwards compatibility, I think with the Switch, it will be on board. Meaning you'll play Switch games originally on the Super Switch, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
But I've seen this kind of open up to discussion online. What do people want? Do you expect backwards compatibility further back? And the answer seems to be, well, not expected, but that'd be nice. Seemingly nobody has a Wii U still, although I do, and I have many games that I would still play on it. But then it's a matter of hardware. How do you put a disk drive on this portable operating system? It's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
But I see an opportunity here. And Nintendo, if you'd like to speak, we can speak more privately. But what if the dock had a disk drive on it?
Oh.
Or perhaps different card slots. 3DS, we're not going to get 3D out of the new thing, of course.
No.
If we had just let me play it back in 2 dimensions. Link Between Worlds, that was an incredible game, and I want to play it again.
Well, here's what Nintendo likes to do, though, Scott, is they like to sell you old games.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be a backwards compatibility function at all. I don't think they'll do that. There's a reason why they're selling you new yet old Mario Kart tracks. Again, right? Like, this is what Nintendo does. Nintendo doesn't want to do backwards compatibility at all. They are getting some of the new, what did we just recently get with Zelda games that came over to the online system for Nintendo, right? They released 2 of those. I was like, okay, it's a nice little touch, bit of a surprise. But at the same time, dude, how many times have people bought Super Mario Brothers over and over and over and over again? It's the same thing here where Nintendo's going to do that. Where do you think the specs lie with Nintendo's next console compared to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S when it comes out next year, right? Granted, think about where we are right now in the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S systems. We are 3 years in, okay? When the Switch launched, dude, it was already old. And I'm worried we're in that same situation when it comes to the next Switch on a Nintendo. Are we going to go back now, just convert it, go to the PS4, Xbox One days? Or is it going to be up there when it gets to comparable with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S?
I think it would be only intelligent to kind of at least attempt to make it to this generation. And I think there's no reason why Nintendo can't figure that out, really. They're just as advanced, theoretically, as all the video game companies are. Yeah. And I would really like to see them kind of match. Now that we're into the discussion of mid-gen updates, I think Nintendo has to strike into this level of fidelity.
Absolutely. And now, too, when you take a look at Project Q for PlayStation, dude, we're going to be able to stream our PS5 to our hands, right? So when you take a look at whatever Nintendo's coming out with next, it has to be somewhat comparable because we can not only stream our PlayStation 5 here shortly whenever Project Q launches, but right now you can play on the cloud with the Xbox Series X and S. So you're on the go already. They have competitors out there on other platforms that are competing for the same space. Nintendo, when it drops, dude, will still do banger numbers. I don't doubt that at all.
Yes.
But we do have that somewhat, still, that fidelity already there and comparable. Hopefully they come swinging out the gate. LCD, not too impressed with the rumblings of an LCD screen versus an OLED screen. I think that's a proper way to go. But I also understand that it cuts costs down too. So, we did get this OLED screen eventually, Scott, when it came to the Switch. Here's Nintendo, right? Like they say, maybe they just sell us 2 different versions. Scott, topic number 2 is one I cannot wait to get my hands on. This is Assassin's Creed Mirage. The game length has been revealed, and there's been some mixed reactions on this one. This is Logan Moore over comicbook.com. Ubisoft has revealed how long it should take to fully complete Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is set to be the next entry in the long-running action-adventure series. Unlike some of the most recent Assassin's Creed titles, Mirage is meant to call back to the structure and mechanics seen in many of the original entries in the franchise. Thank you. Now, it's known that the similarities between AC Mirage and the earliest games in the series will also extend to the playtime, which is also a nice welcome change, Scott. But during a recent AMA session on Reddit, Assassin's Creed Mirage narrative director Sarah Beaulieu said that the game will be similar in length compared to the first Assassin's Creed games. Although this isn't a specific period or time, when looking at website How Long to Beat, many of the initial installments of the Assassin's Creed sagas lasted somewhere around 15 to 25 hours. Scott, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was just trying to think back in time because, yeah, I was quite younger. How long did I spend on those games? I was probably hitting about the 80 to 90 hour mark because I really savored my enjoyment through it.
Sure.
But the idea that we're going back, we've taken a 0 off of those numbers, essentially, instead of going from 150 plus hours, which was, in my opinion, now there are many opinions, but my opinion is it was very, very long and a little bit too bloated, and mechanic-wise and map-wise. There's a lot of Ubisoft complaints that I have that almost specifically describe Assassin's Creed. So to see these changes, I'm more than happy.
I like the fact that we are going back to the old days of Assassin's Creed. I am down for a shorter version. Every time as of recently, I get into Assassin's Creed, dude, I'm 150 hours easy. Right? Like, that's where my playtime lies by the time I'm done. And I'm not even done everything. That's the other side of it. There's still other side quests I could have went and done with Valhalla. There's all this DLC that came and dropped, and I could well be closer to 300 hours at this point, but I just chose to move on. And I wonder if that's one of the other reasons, too, that Ubisoft is realizing that some people are diving all the way in, and that's their game, and that's what they go to, and I can appreciate that. I have got my games that I do that with as well. And Assassin's Creed is one of my most beloved franchises in my gaming history, right? Like, I grew up from the first one. I'm much older than that, but either way, I started with the first one and played them all.
I grew up from the first one.
Yeah, you zip it. We've been there from day one all the way to the most current one, right? And there's one in the series that I've missed. I even played it on Vita with Liberation. Like, dude, I was all in, right? I've been a huge Assassin's Creed fan. The fact that I don't have Assassin's Creed tattoo yet kind of blows my mind. But either way,
yeah, it is surprising.
that's my next one. But getting into a shorter version, because when Origins dropped, that had a decent length to it, but wasn't overwhelming. Odyssey dropped, that took it to a whole other level, and then Valhalla was right there, if not longer, right? So there's people who want to spend their gaming time in that world, and that's all they do. And I can appreciate that, but I can also appreciate a much shorter version where I can get in, have a great time, clear it out, right? Let's go for the 100% trophies or the platinum, clear it out, and then be able to bounce on to the next one. Granted, this was supposed to be originally lined up for DLC for Valhalla, but it came to be so much bigger than just that they spun it off in its own game, which makes me rather excited. And to go back to the old ways of Altair and Ezio, dude, like that's hitting home for me. And yeah, I can't wait to be in there, but I don't need to be there for another 100 hours, Scott.
Yeah, dude, my opinion overall is just that a shorter game does not mean less of a game or worse of a game. A lot of the time, the shorter time frame will allow it to be just a much more enriched package, a much denser and, in my case, enjoyable package. Now, again, I understand a lot of people like to spend more time on these games, but I still think I think of it as like a book. If you really want to get in and read a book, it's a little daunting if it's 1,000 pages long.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need all the fluff that they add in, right? Go off here and do this fetch quest or that fetch quest and this, that. Remember the old days of tailing people?
Get the feathers.
Man, dude, okay, so that was Assassin's Creed 2, my first platinum. That's what I did, and I was missing one feather. I refused to look it up, and I spent a month looking for that one feather and eventually got it. And I was like, it was one of the happiest days ever, man. It was nice to finally clear that off.
That's probably the closest you'll get to a Dark Souls feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
That finally triumph.
Yeah, but I've seen the uproar of everybody complaining that this is DLC. It shouldn't be this short and should be longer. And like, no, it's not necessary, right? If you play Spider-Man games, they're not 100 hours, right? And there's a lot to do in those games too. I wrapped up Miles Morales in 30 hours, and that was extended because I was literally doing everything in that game. So here we are too. Maybe we can get in that same wheelhouse here when it comes to Mirage, and I couldn't be more excited. Scott, one of the biggest titles that are coming around this year is Starfield, and it's tagged as, quote, play anywhere, quote, with cross-save support. Nice little addition there, Scotty.
I like that.
Grant Taylor Hill over at Insider Gaming says, in recent hours, it was discovered that Starfield's page on the Xbox Store application has had an update, and that it now boasts that Xbox Play Anywhere tag. That means that users will be able to take advantage of cross-platform saves in Starfield. And if they buy it on either Xbox or PC, they'll own a copy of the game on the other platform. It's worth stressing that this only applies to digital purchases. Physical copies of Starfield, rest in peace, the physical, will most commonly be bought on the Xbox platform, will not make users eligible for a second copy on the PC platform. This means that multi-platform users will be able to resume their Starfield play regardless of whether they're using an Xbox, PC, or the cloud. Scott, playing Starfield on the go, my friend.
Something I hadn't considered was the cloud due to my internet, but I'm also thinking, is anybody going to buy the physical copy of this game? Because if you pre-order it digital, you're going to have early access to that. 5 days, I think, maybe 7. But
fair enough.
In any case, I think that'll be the majority of buys, myself included.
No, absolutely. I'm such a digital guy now anyways. And I do appreciate it, though. If you buy one, you get both copies, and you can play wherever you want to go, right? Like, I love this edition. This is something we don't see very often anymore at all. It was a big thing when the consoles first launched. Like, hey, you can play wherever you want and take your save. And now we're starting to get into this little weave of moving away from that a little bit. But when we do see it, it is nice to have that integrated where I can go. If I have them on my PC, I can just continue on my save and away I go, or take it to the cloud, or take it to my Xbox. I'm much more of a couch kind of guy. I'd rather sit on the couch in front of my big screen and just play, right? Like, I'm on the computer all day, so I'm not normally here to play unless we have a game for review, which, stay tuned this week, because I'm telling you, there's a game that I cannot wait to tell you about. So, but
there are changes happening to the PC app as well that kind of may alleviate this. Something you might not think about is recording gameplay footage. That's something that's infinitely easier to do on the PC than it is the console.
Yep.
And just recently, there's been talk the app on PC will no longer be able to show you your clips. So they're putting up little roadblocks here. It gets a little harder to kind of view yourself on the PC in a way that might be useful. Now, at least there'll be an ability. We can hop on PC and then record, stream perhaps.
No, absolutely. Very, very cool to see this opportunity come around, though. Obviously, one of the biggest games coming out this year. Is going to be huge. Nice to see Bethesda coming up here, and hopefully things will run just the way we want it to, Scott. Time will tell. Scott, dude, this is a big one. It kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't see this one coming. This is Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is getting a remake. It's claimed. This is Chris Scullion over at VGC. It's been claimed that the studio co-developing the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is also working on a remake for the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. A Reddit user said to be a former employee of Virtuous made the claim in a now deleted post on Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit, as it was reported by Xfire. The user was reportedly verified by the subreddit's mods as being a legitimate former Virtuous employee. If this verification process was accurate, it could lend more credibility to their claim. According to the user, Virtuous is working on 5 separate projects, of which the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 is one. Dude, is a big one. But the user claimed that the studio is also working on a project, Altair, which is not really known to be anything, but which is said to be the remake of none other than the Oblivion game. Dude, did you see that one coming?
No, certainly not Oblivion.
Nope.
I had to do a little reminding of myself. Oblivion came out in 2006. So it is long enough. It could be deserving of a remaster at the very least. But my immediate thought goes to Morrowind. Morrowind came out in 2002. I was just a wee lad at the time, and I have many fond memories of that game. And it's older, it's jankier. I would like to see that kind of remastered into the new engine.
Yeah.
Because if anybody remembers back in the day, you could swing your sword 10 times at somebody, and you might hit twice.
Yeah, no thanks. It's
a lot of stats going on.
yeah. It's being used or brought up with new tech using the Unreal Engine 5, Scott. So, yeah, that's not so bad at all, right? And the Oblivion engine. So between the two, it could be rather impressive. The fact that they're working on a Metal Gear Solid project, this project, man, but they're not done yet as they have 5. For instance, new graphics are rendered in Unreal Engine 5 project, but most of the gameplay, physics, etc. are still done in the Oblivion engine, they claim. They also say that the project will be released by the end of 2024, early 2025, depending mostly on if it's a remake or a remaster, and that the game is mostly being made in Virtuous Paris Studio. Other projects Virtuous is working on, as according to users, are massive, described as Monster Hunter crossed with Shadow of the Colossus. Is dude, that's a big statement right there, isn't it?
Talk about a game that requires a remaster or a remake. Oh, Shadow of the Colossus, come back, please.
Yeah, this is wow, Virtuous is busy, and this is actually panning out to be true, Scott. There's a lot to kind of get into. A Monster Hunter crossover with Shadow of the Colossus. Yo, so now we're gonna be climbing on top of the monsters and trying to take them down one by one.
Does that mean co-op as well?
Well, that's the other side of it too, right? Now you, myself, Corey, Steve, we're all in there. Kyle, how big is this party gonna be? And we're all climbing up on top of the monster to try and take them out. Maybe you stab them in the forehead, just like Shadow of the Colossus. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
Never quite know.
Oh, I have so many ideas for how that could work out. You hit a magical spot, it opens up another one. It changes dynamically. I've got many ideas.
Oh man, we'll see. Right now, the other side of it too is you take a look at PlayStation, and I just can't help but going masters or remakes is Bluepoint. Like, what are they up to right now? Right now, Virtuous is stepping it up. Dude, they stepped up their game. If they're working on Oblivion and they're working on Metal Gear Solid 3, Delta is actually whatever you want to call it, Snake Eater. Either way, I can't wait. No official release date on it though, Scott. But yet they're claimed here possibly 2024, 2025 for Oblivion. How long do you think they've been working on this?
Yeah, it must be a couple years at least now, because these games only get longer to produce, and working with a new engine has to be complicated as well.
Oh, very much.
Do we trust this company? They have some big properties under their belt now.
Absolutely, and if they nail these properties, they'll be held up there just like Bluepoint when it comes to remakes, right? I think that's the other side of it. They could be really setting their path moving forward for the studio. They have to nail Metal Gear. Like, they have to nail it, right? That has to hit properly and hit hard and be done well. There's a lot riding on this. You don't take over Kojima's project and then screw it up, because if you do, dude, that studio is done. Like, that's the end of that.
Yeah, well, players at least will never look at it the same.
No, not at all. There's so much to look at when we get into this. And Oblivion's such a beloved series too, Scott, that, dude, everybody's gonna start nitpicking the details, right? And yeah, it's just, yo, we're big Metal Gear guys here, so yeah, stay tuned to that. We can't wait. Just give us a release date, man, and more than just a CG trailer too.
Yeah.
Scott, it is the calm before the storm, my friend, as we do know what's ahead of us yet, because there's so many games coming just around the corner. But today, it's just a bit of a quiet day. What do we have?
Yeah, today is much quieter. We have Celeste now updated for the Xbox Series consoles.
Cool.
And we also have There Is No Light on its Xbox Series debut. It will come to more consoles later on.
Nice.
They may look funny.
And just like that, Scott, that'll wrap up ITG Daily for today, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. As always, we bring you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. We'll be back once again tomorrow. But until then, I'm Drew, that's Scott.
And we'll see you inside the game.